Welcome back, children, for the next part of the lesson. So long you have learnt about vegetative reproduction and the types of asexual reproduction. Now we move on to the sexual reproduction. Here the sexual reproduction, the gametes produced, that's the sex cells. The male gamete and the female gamete fuse and new offspring will be produced. The genes, they have genes. The genes means the characters which comes from the father and the mother, from the male and the female. During the sexual reproduction, the male gamete comes in contact with the female gamete and fuses with it. You know what is fusing? Mix with it, say mixing. Then because of that, flowers, fruits, all that are produced. Then because of this, a new plant which grows into a new plants. The flowers are the reproductive part of the plant. I have already told you. It is the reproductive organ. Some flowers contain male and the female part. These flowers are called bisexual flowers. Some are containing a male part alone. This is called unisexual. Some are containing only female part. That is also called unisexual. Here there is another division. The same plant, unisexual of male, unisexual of female will be there. That plant are called monoecious plants. They are called monoecious. Male flower and the female flower will be in the same plant. Example, maize. Maize, you know, no? The eatable grain. Yes. In some plants, the male flower will be in one plant, female flower will be another plant. Example, papaya. Sometimes we all say, no, some papayas actually they never give a fruit. They say it's a male plant. No, it is because it produces only a male flower. Pollination never occurs. Maybe a female plant may not be near by or something like that. See, they will not give out fruits at all. Sometimes they will cut it. These plants, they are called dioecious. Different plants. Monoecious means in the same plant. In the same flower, you have a male reproductive part and the female reproductive part. These flowers are called bisexual flowers and these flowers are called hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite. Now, hermaphrodite, these are all the different types of flowers. Either they can be unisexual, same plant. Unisexual, different plants. Bisexual, in the same flower. Okay. And now here we are going to learn about a flower. Usually if it is a class, usually you will have a flower and I will point out and I will tell you what are the part of it. Here if you take a flower, a typical flower, see there are different exceptions will be there. Normally if you take for example, if you take a plant, you will have a root, stem, branch, flower. Some yield fruit, some may not yield fruit. But there will be a different type of plants. In general, all are having, most of them are having roots, stem, leaves. Yes or no? Now, here a typical flower generally will have four main parts. Here the sepals, petals, stamen and carpel. These are the four main parts of the flower. Yes, children. If you can take a flower and keep it in front of you and try to touch it, sepals, petals, stamens and carpels. Sepals protects the flower when they are in the bud stage. You could see some green leafy thing on the top of it. Especially when you buy a rose bud, you can see it is covering the whole thing. You cannot take the petals out. Yes. See, once the flower blooms or the flowers the petals comes out, open, the petal encloses the plant, the petals out. Then you can see the sex organs, that is the male part and the female, carpel. Stamen. Stamen is the male part, carpel is the female part. I have given a picture of a shoe flower or hibiscus. You can see everything there. The male reproductive part and the female reproductive part. Pedicel is the part where the flower attaches with the plant. I told you the sepals covering the flower when they are in the bud stage. They will come down once the flower is open out. Then the colorful part is the petal. Now when you take it inside, you can see male and the female reproductive organs. The stamen of a flower collectively called androecium. See the stamen, the male reproductive part, the whole part we call it as a androecium. Of a flower collectively called gynoecium. The female part is collectively called the gynoecium, the carpel. Stamen is called androecium, carpel is called gynoecium. Stamen is a male reproductive part, so androecium. Carpel is the female reproductive part, it is a gynoecium. Now we take the structure of a stamen, carpel and stamen together. A stamen consists of anther. Anther is on the top part, yellow part. If you take the shoe flower, you can see the anther on the top, like yellow dusty thing will be there. It consists of anther and a filament. From there you can see a small yellowish tube, that is a filament. This produces a powdery substance, it's called a pollen grains. See, when you see a hibiscus plant, you can see outside, it will be out. It will be out beautifully, it will be out. If you just take a note of it closer, you can see this in the stamen, the filament anther. It will be like a small mustard like thing, but yellowish in color. From there will be a tube. That tube, we call it as a filament, and the dusty thing, the yellow dusty powder thing, we call it as a pollen grains. These pollens are very lightweight. They are only have to fly and fuse. Okay. Wait and have a hard protective coat which prevents them from drying up. See, because they have to be alive to fuse with. Now when you open the pollen grains, you could see pollen sac. When you cut the anther, you can see a pollen grains and pollen sac. You can see the filament down. That is so far we have explained the stamen. That is the androecium. That is the male reproductive part. Are you all clear? Clear? The stamen is a male reproductive part. It consists of a small top head-like thing, yellowish. That is called anther. Anther is connected with the filament. Filament means a tube-like structure. Then you have a powdery thing, it is called pollen grains. These pollen grains, it is inside the anther. See, once the pollen grains, it's a powdery thing, it has a protective coat. Then it comes out to fuse with the female. Now I'll explain the female. The female reproductive part, you will have a stigma. The stigma is connected to a style. Then the style is connected to a small bag, like a small pouch like thing, ovary. In that you will have ovule. Ovule sense how you have a pollen grains inside, like that it has a ovule. Then petal. Petal, already you know where the petal. It is inside the center part. It's inside the petal and the sepal, the down part. The carpel is also known as a pistil. Now you have a stigma on the top. It is also yellow, but this is different shape. This is a different shape. These will be at the sides and this will be in the center. Then you have from there the stigma is connected with the style. The style connected with the ovary. Inside the ovary you have a small seed like thing, ovule, and then that is connected with the petal. The petal is connected with the sepal. The sepal goes and connected with the pedicel. Now after this, what we have to do, what they have to do? They have to fuse. Now the androecium and gynoecium, the pollen grains, the ovules pollen grains and ovule must fuse. That part we call it as a pollination. Fuses, mixes, we call it as a. How do these gametes, I told you it's a sexual cells, fuse with the female gametes in flower. For the fusion, the male and the female gametes, it takes place the pollen grain from the anther. I told you the pollen grains are inside a sac the sac is called the anther. It is transferred to the stigmas by the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma is called pollination. The transferring is done by the insects. Sometimes it will be self-pollinated, maybe because of the wind. I told you it is a powdery thing. Pollen grain is a powdery thing. Self-pollination. See, because they are nearby in the same flower, self-pollination can be taken in bisexual flowers. Self-pollination occurs only in the same flower. Self means the same flower. During the self-pollination, the pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma. See, both are open, both are powdery on the top of a same flower and different flower on the same plant. Different flower on the same plant. Suppose if it is a unisexual plant, if it is in the same plant, it can be transferred. Monoecious, maize example I told you. In pollination, in cross-pollination, that is cross-pollination from one flower to another flower, it is transferred by birds, insects or wind. When they visit, this will be attached with the legs or the wings. They try to take nectar, yes or no? It picks up a pollen grains from the anther. At the same time, this anther is deposit the grain on the stigma. They may go to the next plant, and there will be a stigma. Okay, the pollination takes place. I told you some insect helps in pollinations. It will stick on to this wings or on their mouth parts, anywhere. When they are sucking nectar, jasmine, anion, sunflower, strawberry, These flowers are pollinated by insects. Wind pollination is mostly done in grasses, cereals, dandelion. Dandelion, you know, no? That will fly, you know, we used to play with that. It's dispersed by wind. Dispersed by, example, dandelion. We'll just blow, it will fly. Okay? Water pollination. The water takes away this one in aquatic plants. Then the fertilization. What is meant by fertilization? Fertilization after fusion or pollination, it has to be fertilized. The stigma secretes a sugary fluid after the pollen grains has landed on it. See, pollen grains has landed in the male has landed in the female. This will secrete a sweet fluid that we know. This will help the pollen grains to germinate and a small tube grows out from it. This tube is called a pollen tube. As the tube grows, it secretes enzymes. Started secreting enzymes. The pollen tube grows longer and longer towards the ovary, carrying with the male gametes. See, when it goes to the ovary, what happens? Fertilization takes place. Once it reaches the egg and the other fuse with another nucleus inside the ovule. Therefore, fertilization also has a double fertilization. After that, there is, with that I finish here. One more video about dispersal. Can you wait? I'll come back with the dispersal part of it. Till then, bye to you.